All right, welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone is doing well. Before I start, this is not an attack on Eddie Hearn, this video, okay? It's essentially quite the opposite. I'm quite optimistic about Eddie Hearn's future, but he is in a bit of a situation right now, and he's definitely got his back against the wall, and it'll be interesting to see how he comes out of this, because he's a fighter at the end of the day, and as like a boxing fan myself, we want to see competition in promotion. Well, not just the fights, but in promoters too. So it's no fun when you just have one guy running away with it, like Frank Warren at the moment. You want to see, well, Ben Shalom's come on the scene as well, but you want to see competition. It's healthy. It's great. It makes for more competitive. I was going to say fights, but not that. It makes for more of a competitive market. And Eddie Hearn being back on the scene and being back to close to where he was, I think is only a good thing for the sport. So let's talk about it.
Eddie don't know shit about boxing.
Boxing.
So Dazn reportedly, I haven't read and covered the full story. You can go check it out. I'll leave a link in the description. But they have a $2.3 billion loss recorded. They're hemorrhaging money. It's pretty obvious. We know this. They're getting desperate. They put on some awful shows recently. I actually unsubscribed to Dazn recently, within about 5 or 6 weeks ago, maybe. And I'd been there since the inception, and they were good. They were actually, I thought they were great. I thought it was amazing. It was almost too good to be true. Well, maybe that turns out to be true. But when it first came about, we had those little tournaments of WBSS, amazing, and it was really cheap. It was like $10 here in America and even cheaper in the UK. And I was like, this is amazing. And it really was. And slowly but surely the model started to unravel. We were all promised the no pay-per-view model.
I believe today, with this announcement, you will see the end of pay-per-view boxing.
And in all fairness to that, I think they started doing that right before, those ludicrous shutdowns in like 2020, and I think that really hammered them bad. I've got to check the dates, and if I'm wrong, I'll put it up on the bottom. But that was bad timing for them. But nonetheless, they kept hemorrhaging money. And when you have Eddie Hearn, who's got to take a massive responsibility for this, right? He's known as the $1 billion man. He had all that money at his disposal, and he didn't really do, like, if you hindsight's 2020, right? But when you think about signing Demetrius Andrade, okay, good fighter, very good fighter. I would have picked him to beat all the top guys back in the day when he was in his prime. Excuse me, but when you're paying someone like that amount of money, and he never was able to put bums on seats or sell tickets. And on top of that, he's always going to be an avoided fighter, an awkward, slick southpaw. Like that's he's historically people that have been avoided. So if you think about, well, why would you sign somebody like that and pay him that much money? It's like, it doesn't really make sense when you think about it now after the fact. But nonetheless, Dazn are struggling, and they're putting on these just hideous shows. I saw that clip from the weekend where there was that little midget wrestling against that guy, and I was like, what the hell are they doing? It's not boxing. The YouTube stuff, I think, should be called something else, to be honest with you. They should name it something else. YouTube combat or something other than boxing. It's not boxing. And I've got a lot of respect for those guys that get in there, don't get me wrong. KSI and whoever else, they're doing it, they're training, they're putting their sacrifices in, and they're working really hard, and they're getting up to put their honor in the ring, and I've got a lot of respect for that. But at the moment, it's not boxing, is it? I mean, it's just shambolic. So Dazn are going down that path. Now they have obviously got AJ. Canelo's a free agent, but he might quite easily pop back up on Dazn with Eddie Hearn. But look, fighters have left Hearn. We've got a Coley, Liam Smith, Joseph Parker. I'm sure there's one or two. Josh Warrington. So he's trending down. Eddie Hearn's trending down. But I do think he's going to be okay. And hear me out, because one, you know, as much as he came from a silver spoon and, you know, he's kind of had everything given to him before he was the reason he sparked a massive, you know, boost into the UK boxing, for sure. He almost single-handedly did it, really, to be honest. You got to give him the credit where credit is due. He definitely was involved and single-handedly, or almost single-handedly, you know, created a resurgence and gave British boxing some absolutely magnificent nights. Magnificent nights, you know, really, really took things to another level. And when he came to America, it backfired. He got far too arrogant, far too cocky, and far too brash coming into this country. And, you know, he got shot down hard because of, not just because of, but because of his attitude and energy coming in here and thinking he was just going to be the man. You know, I think that caused a lot of people to band together and blackball him, which, you know, is wrong, but it's like he could have gone about it a different way, but it wasn't to be. But I think he's got a fighter's spirit in him. You know, I don't see him quitting and giving up. I think he's got a bit of that in him. I think the question is, how's he going to do it now with no money? Because he's spent all Dazn's money, so he's got to be a bit more shrewd about it. Now, he's obviously got himself into another situation with Gervonta Davis. So, you know, things go from bad to worse for Eddie Hearn. But, you know, after watching a recent interview on IFL, you know, he did sound quite optimistic. And, you know, there's a fighter in him, you know. He's not about to give up, and he's not about to, you know, throw in the towel. He does have AJ. AJ is going to be a pivotal piece of the puzzle in, you know, Eddie Hearn's and Dazn's resurgence, because it doesn't look like they have anybody in the future. The Conor Benn situation, I mean, even resting your hopes on him without the drug case pending, or, you know, I don't even know what's happening with that. But even Conor Benn, you know, he's not like your blue chip fighter where you can go in and match him up with the top guys and think, yeah, my guy's probably going to win. AJ was that, really. You know, he's a tremendous fighter. He really is. He's had a difficult time, but he's also lost against, you know, one of the best fighters in the era. So AJ's rebuilding process will be very, very, very important. I think him moving to America is actually a great thing. It's an opportunity for him to build a small fan base up here, I think. You know, in Texas, they're massive fight fans there. Rumoured to be with Derek James, if that is true. He's obviously got you know, a shoe in there with Errol Spence and Jamel Charlo, and then Frank Martin, obviously another one of Derek James's fighters. And if there's some way that they can get AJ on a card in Texas, fighting in America, I think, you know, there's no reason why he can't build up a name out there, especially as he's in now with, you know, an American trainer and a little crew down there. I think, you know, that's a perfect way to expand your demographic, really, because a lot of times, you know, British heavyweights or British fighters, you know, it's very hard to break into the US market. But one way you can do it, which Fury did, you know, is to fight over here and, you know, have a good fight and a good performance. And he needs to get back to knocking people out, you know. That's the base level of how you build a fan base, is just knock people out. So I don't know who he's going to fight next. Rumoured to be that Australian guy, I forget his name, but you know, I'd love to. I think a fight with Dylan White is inevitable, because that's a guaranteed win. You'd heavily favour AJ, but also by stoppage, you know, and that's a name, and that's another a way to build yourself back up. But that's a UK fight, that one. But I think, you know, I think AJ's going to be all right. I do. I think he's going to be all right under Derek James. You know, I think that that is an interesting, good matchup. And watching one of Hatman's videos about how Derek James might get the best mechanical way, or you know, AJ's, you know, a bit robotic, but so is Errol Spence a little bit, you know, and maybe he's very good at fine tuning that style, and that's a great point, because I've always thought AJ, you know, he does need the fluidity, but, you know, how realistic is that? And, you know, he's almost had this like a healthy obsession with a slick boxer, and you can't just be a style that you aren't suited for, you know. It's like if you're a slick southpaw, right? You're not going to suddenly turn into like a hard inside fighting pressure fighter. It's just not in your DNA. So maybe being fluid ain't in AJ's DNA, and maybe just sticking to what he is doing and having someone pull the best out of him at that style, which probably is Derrick James. It'd be interesting to see. So I'm excited about this. I know the thumbnail looked like I was, you know, kind of trying to drag Eddie Hearn through the mud. I'm really not. I'm not about that at all. I think he's done fantastic things for the sport, and I hope he gets back on top. I really do, because it just means more fights and better fights for us, the fans, to appreciate. And like I said earlier, competition is absolutely paramount in this game, especially with promoters. We want that. We want him and Frank Warren competing again. I want to see Eddie Hearn. Actually, I've got an interesting person he could sign, interesting fighter that he can sign, and I'm being a bit biased because I really like this guy as a fighter. Regis Prograis. That would be an interesting signing for Hearn. Regis is, to my knowledge, a free agent. You know, he doesn't. There's a lot of fighters that have coined on to being exploited, which I think is great, and they're doing their own thing. Man, I think he's obviously just got his belt back. He's always going to be in tough fights and probably expected to win. It's a very tough division, but Regis is about to have a resurgence. Not that he, you know, went too far off. He lost to Josh Taylor, but he's coming. He's hungry. I've followed him quite hard, and you know, that's someone you would want to put your money behind. And you know, I think he's also marketable, or will be a bit more marketable. Regis Prograis alluded to this too a little bit about in his post-fight press conference after beating Zepeda, where he was like, you know, I'm very cocky and brash, but you know, what do you guys think I should be? Something like that. It was a weird thing to say, but I think what he was trying to say is, you know, he's opening up a little bit, basically. And I think he understands, you know, to do that and to sell more tickets and stuff like that. You know, I think there is a charismatic dude in there. Maybe not full on charismatic, but I think he's got his own soulfulness, you know what I mean? And I think Eddie Hearn should sign him. Bring him to the UK. Don't pay him too much money though. He hasn't got that much money left, and Dazn they need some help. They need a top fighter that they can build up, and I think they can turn him into a star. I really do. But maybe that's just me being biased, because I really like watching Prograis fight. But that is it from me. I've got more of these type videos coming too. I'm just be making boxing videos now, and I'll try and get some tutorials in when I can. I'm going to be putting up some news videos. Shout out to Hatman on that. And I'm also going to be putting up just some boxing videos, you know, keep them going. And if you're new to this, hit the subscribe button and hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Plenty more content coming, and have a great week boxing on the edge. Take care.
Boxing.
On the edge.